عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم for the Shahada of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and his family and his companions. To start off our Majlis, we're going to have the recitation of the Holy Quran with Ala Abadi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بنفس اللوامة أيحسب الإنسان أن لن نجمع عظاما بلى قادرين على أن نسوي بنانا بل يريد الإنسان ليفجر أماما يسأل أيان يوم القيامة فإذا برق البصر وخسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر يقول الإنسان يومئذ أين المفر كلا لا وزر إلى ربك يومئذ المستقر ينبأ الإنسان يومئذ بما قدم وأخر بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرا ولو ألقى معاذرا لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنا فإذا قرآنه فطبع قرآنا ثم إن علينا بيانا كلا بل تحبون العاجلة وتذرون الآخرة وجوه يومئذ ناظرة إلى ربها ناظرة ووجوه يومئذ باصرة تظن أن يفعل بها فقرا. صلوا على محمد وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Now with the Majlis by Sayyid Al-Madani. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. After all the companions had attained martyrdom, Imam al-Hussein stood on the plains of Karbala, calling out, Habib, Zuhair, Jabir, Burair. He called out to all of his companions, one by one, without hearing a reply. He would say, ما لي أدعوكم فلا تجيبون أم حال بينكم وبين سيدكم المنون. Why is it that I call you but you do not respond, or is it that death has separated you from your master? The relatives of Imam al-Hussein, the Banu Hashim, they would begin their preparation for battle, and they would send their final farewells to one another. The first who came forward was Ali al-Akbar. When the ladies saw him, they would hold on to him, saying, Ya Ali, have mercy upon us. We are strangers and we have no strength to lose you. However, seeing the Imam of his time all alone, surrounded by those who wanted to kill him, he approached his father and asked for the permission to go to the battlefield. Aba Abdullah, he would begin to cry. Akbar knew the tears of his father were a sign of his permission to fight. As soon as the enemies saw him, a man shouted, "O Ali, you have family ties with Yazid, and we want to take care of this relation, so if you wish we will grant you safety." Akbar would reply, "My relation to the Messenger of Allah is more deserving to be taken care of." Then he would chant loudly to introduce his holy self. He would say, "أنا علي بن الحسين بن علي نحن ورب البيت أولى بالنبي تالله لا يحكم فينا ابن الداعي أضرب بالسيف أحمي عن أبي ضربة غلام هاشمي قرشي." I am Ali, the son of Hussein, the son of Ali. By the Lord of the Kaaba, we are closer to the Holy Prophet. By Allah, the illegitimate son will never govern us. I will strike you with my sword, defending my father, the strike of a Hashemite Qarashi youth. Aba Abdullah, he would turn to Umar ibn Sa'ad while the tears were flowing down his cheeks. He would say, "What is it with you? May Allah cut your progeny, just like the way you have cut my progeny and did not honor my relation to Rasulullah. And may He send the one who will slaughter you in your bed." Then he turns towards the skies. He says, "Ya Allah, witness upon them, for the one that resembles your Prophet Muhammad, most in morals, looks and speech, has just gone out to fight them. And whenever we missed seeing the face of your beloved Prophet, we would look at him. O Allah, deprive them from the blessings of this earth, separate them from one another, cut all their ties, make them go in different paths, and never allow their leaders to be pleased with them. They called us to support us, but now they are fighting us." He then recited the verse, "إن الله اصطفى آدم ونوح وآل إبراهيم وآل عمران على العالمين ذرية بعضها من بعض والله سميع عليم." Indeed, Allah has chosen Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Imran over mankind, a progeny one from another. Indeed, Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Akbar kept fighting bravely, reminding them the bravery of Rasulullah. And then his mother Layla would stand by the tents, not able to see the battlefield. She would look at the face of Hussein. She would use his expressions as an indication to see if her son was safe. She would see Imam smiling. She would know her son was safe. Ajarakum Allah, until Imam's face would suddenly change and she would see the look of worry. She would begin to hit her cheeks. She would say, "Tell me, Hussein, did something happen to my son?" He says to her, "No, Layla, but Bakr ibn Ghanim has just approached him and he is one of the strongest warriors. Oh Layla, go back to the tent and pray for your son. For I heard my grandfather Rasulullah saying that the dua of a mother to her child is accepted." She would go back into the tent. She would cry and weep. She would say, "Ya Allah, I beseech you by your Prophet Rasulullah. Oh Allah, I ask you by Hussein, who is a stranger in the land of Karbala, who is Ghareeb. O Allah, I ask you by the state of Hussein. O Allah, I ask you by the thirst of Hussein, the one who returned Yusuf to Ya'qub, return my son Ali safely to me. Akbar would return to his father while holding the head of the enemy. Then he said, Father, the thirst has killed me. The heaviness of the metal has made me tired. Father, is there no way for a drink of water? Aba Abdullah would cry. He would say, you would meet your grandfather Rasulullah soon. He will give you a cup of water which you will never feel thirsty again. Akbar would turn back to the battlefield. Imam would stop him. He would say, go and bid your final farewell to your mother. Akbar would enter the tent of his mother. He saw her lying unconscious on the floor in a puddle of her own tears. He placed her head on his lap. He began to cry. Some narrations mention that the tears that fell on his mother's face are what woke her up. He would embrace her tightly and reassure her that he would make her proud in front of Fatima al-Zahra. O Mu'mineen, Akbar went onto the battlefield, fighting them bravely, reminding them of the courage of his grandfathers Ali and Rasulullah. They begin to surround him. They begin to shoot arrows at him. They start to throw rocks at him. Then an enemy of Allah by the name of Murrah ibn Munqidh says, I swear that I will make his father weep over him. He would hit him in his back. He would hit him with the sword on his head. Akbar would hug his horse. His blood starts to cover the eyes of the horse. The horse would start running until it reaches the tents of the enemy. They would surround his horse. One of them pulls Akbar to the ground. They would start to kick him and hit him from all sides. Some would hit him with their swords. Others would hit him with their spears. O believers, they would cut his body into pieces. He would call out to his father, peace be upon you from me. This is my grandfather Rasulullah. He has given me a cup of water which I will never feel thirsty again. And there is another cup saved for you, O my father. Imam al-Hussein rushes towards his son. Some narrations report that he jumped off the back of the horse and fell onto the ground. He would put his cheek on the cheek of his son. He would stay laying there beside him. Imagine the tent. They are at the tents of the enemies. The enemy have surrounded them. Akbar is in pieces. Aba Abdullah lies next to him. He would take his blood and throw it to the skies, and not a single droplet would fall back. Imam al-Hussein was unable to carry his son, so he would call on the Banu Hashim to carry the martyr back into the tents. After that, Abdullah the son of Muslim went into the battlefield while saying, today I will meet Muslim my father and the group that committed to the religion of the Prophet. He would fight them bravely until Yazid ibn Raqad shot him with an arrow in his forehead. He was unable to take the arrow out. Then he turned to Allah in prayer, and an enemy of Allah pierced a spear in his heart. He would drop to the ground, a martyr. Then Yazid ibn Raqad approached him. He tried to take out the arrow, but the arrowhead would stay in the forehead. After Abdullah ibn Muslim was killed, the other sons of Abu Talib went onto the battlefield as a group, while Imam al-Hussein was shouting, please have patience towards death, O my cousins. as the sons of Abu Talib went out to fight, some would mention Lady Zainab would see her children, Awn and Muhammad, 13 and 11 years of age, in the tent. She would say to them, "This is the turn of the Bani Hashim. Why is it that you are not fighting, my sons?" They say to her, "O Mother Zainab, Aba Abdullah has not given us the permission." She would take them to Hussein. She would say, "O Aba Abdullah, what will I say to my mother Fatima if she sees Akbar cut into pieces while my sons are safe and unharmed?" He replied, "Maybe their father would not allow them to fight." She said, "My husband is the one who said to me, if you see Hussein alone on the plains of Karbala, send my sons to defend him." They would go out onto the battlefield, fighting like the brave warriors that they were. They were young in age, but reminded the enemies of the bravery of their grandfathers. Imam Ali and Ja'far al-Tayyar, O believers, they would fight side by side until the enemies surrounded them. One of the enemies would hit Awn on his head. Muhammad would look at his brother, distracted, and then he would be hit on the head as well. They would shout out, "Oh uncle, come to our aid." Imam al-Hussein would rush to his nephews. He would sit by their side. They would look at him and say, "Oh Aba Abdullah, we have one final will for you. What is your will, Awn and Muhammad?" They said to him, "Tell our mother we have fulfilled our promise." He said, "What is your promise?" He says, "Tell our mother Zainab, we did not go to the river and we did not drink water as the children are still thirsty." And then their souls would depart and they would return to their lords as martyrs. Other descendants of Abu Talib that defended Aba Abdullah were Abdul Rahman ibn Aqil and his brothers Ja'far ibn Aqil and Abdullah ibn Aqil, who kept fighting them courageously until the amount of wounds on their bodies made them weak and drop to the ground. Then Uthman ibn Khalid would approach Abdullah and he would behead him. The other martyrs from this holy family include the nephew Muhammad ibn Muslim, the sons of Imam Ali who were killed by Zajr ibn Badr, Al-Hasan al-Muthanna, the son of Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hasan would also go into the battlefield. He would receive 18 wounds and his right hand was cut off, but he did not attain martyrdom. The other sons of Imam al-Hasan included Abdullah al-Akbar, who was the elder brother of Qasim. He would go onto the battlefield until he was martyred. After Qasim's elder brother was killed, he would approach his uncle Hussein. He asked for the permission to go into the battlefield. Imam al-Hussein said to him, "I promised your father to take care of you." He would reply, "But my uncle, you are the will of my father too. When death approached my father, he wrote me a will saying, 'O my son Qasim, when you see your uncle all alone, with no one there to help him, do not come short in supporting him. O my son Qasim, represent me in the battlefield.'" They would hug each other, crying in tears. Imam al-Hussein would say to his nephew, "My son Qasim, how do you see death?" He would reply, "In protecting and supporting you, it is sweeter than honey." He took him to the tent. He would open a box that had the clothing of his brother. He would then offer Qasim the armor and sword of his father. Then he would say to him, "Go to your mother's tent and bid her your final farewell." When he entered the tent, Lady Zainab would cry. She would say, "Wa Hasana, is this my brother Imam al-Hasan?" He would hug his aunt Zainab. he would hug his mother Ramla. Then it's as if he would say to her, "Oh my mother, I am going to die thirsty. Whenever you drink water, remember my thirst. Oh mother, I am going to die in my youth. Whenever you see a young person, remember my youth." The son of Hassan would enter the battlefield bravely chanting, "إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن سبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصقوا صوب المزن." If you neglect me, I am the son of Hassan, the grandson of the chosen and trusted prophet. This is Hussein, like a captured prisoner amongst the people, and he has not been granted a sip of water. He would fight them bravely. He would fight them bravely, reminding them the bravery of his father, Imam al-Hassan, until his sandal would become loose. At that time, he would say it is inappropriate for a person of a high status to walk barefoot, so he tries to fix his sandals. O believers, one of the enemies by the name of Amr ibn Sa'ad, he would strike Qasim on his head. أين المنادي وقاسما? Qasim would fall face first to the ground. He would shout, "Oh Uncle Hussein, come to my aid." Imam al-Hussein rushes to the battlefield. He would take revenge of his nephew by killing his killer. Then he would sit by the body of Qasim. He would hug him tightly. He would say, "Woe upon a nation that have killed you, my son, and their adversary on the day of judgment will be your grandfather Rasulullah. It is difficult for me, O nephew, that you call me and I do not answer, or that I answer you but my answer is no benefit to you. By Allah, now I am left with few supporters." He would stay by the body, crying until the soul of Qasim would depart this world, returning to his Lord as a martyr. Imam al-Hussein would pick up the body of Qasim. He would put his chest on his chest. However, because of how broken the Imam was, the feet of Qasim would drag on the floor. He would enter the tents, lay him beside Akbar, and the woman would enter mourning, wailing, shouting and slapping their faces. جابه ومدده ما بين خوته قعد عيدهم يا ويلي وهم موته بس ما سمع عن النسوان صوته اجت رملة تصيح الله أكبر. Then the Imam would turn in dua. He would say, "Oh Allah, one by one, each individual with no exception, never forgive them." After the martyrdom of Qasim, Abbas turned to his brothers, Abdullah, Uthman and Ja'far, and would say to them, "O my brothers, O the children of al-Baneen, go out onto the battlefield until I see that you have become the best examples in the way of Allah and the Prophet." He then looks at Abdullah, who was the eldest of three, and said, "O my brother, you lead the charge until you attain martyrdom." They would fight the enemy bravely until they were martyred. Now Abbas can see there is no one left in the tents apart from he and Hussein. He would become impatient as Aba Abdullah would not allow him to fight. Seeing the Imam outnumbered with no supporters left, and the children crying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, he would say, my master Hussein, my heart has become tight. Will you allow me to enter the battlefield? Hussein would reply, my brother, my flag bearer, if you are to be gone, then my army would collapse. Abbas would say, Master Hussein, my chest is tight because of these hypocrites. Allow me to seek revenge against them. Hussein would tell Abbas, if it is a must, then go and request some water for the family. Abbas would go out onto his horse. He would advise the army of Yazid and warn them of the wrath of Allah, but to no use. He would shout with his loudest voice, O Umar ibn Sa'ad, this is Hussein, the son of the daughter of Rasulullah. You have killed his companions, you have killed his family members, and those are his women and children dying from thirst. Give them some water, even though the thirst is killing them. Imam al-Hussein has told me to tell you, allow us to leave to Rome or India, and you can keep Hijaz and Iraq for yourself. The accursed Shimr would reply, O son of Abu Turab, if the face of the earth was all water and we were in charge of it, we would not give you a single drop of water. Abbas would return to Hussein to inform him while hearing the cries of the children, thirst, thirst, thirst is killing us, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. He would enter the tents, promising the children water, and he would take his water pouch and mount his horse. He would ride towards the Euphrates. He sat by the river. He gathered a bit of water in his hand. As he moved it closer to his face, he felt the coldness of the water, and he threw it back into the river while saying, Ya nafsu min ba'd al-Husayn huni, wa ba'duhu la kunti an takuni. هذا حسين وارد المنون وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني ولا فعال صادق اليقين. O self, do not be humiliated before Hussein, as after him you are nothing to be. This is Hussein approaching death while you want to drink the cold water. By Allah, this is not the act of my religion, nor is this the act of somebody who is truthful and sincere. He would fill the water pouch. He would head towards the camp of Hussein. Umar ibn Sa'ad would say, stop him. If the water reaches the camp of Hussein, none of you will stay alive. They tried to block his path, but he was known for his courage. He would fight fearlessly while chanting, I am not scared of death, even if death will call me. Until I am buried on the battlefield, my soul is in protection for the grandson of the purified Prophet. I am Abbas, approaching with the water, and I am not afraid of evil on the day that it meets me. They tried to face Abbas, but no one was brave enough to face him. So an enemy of Allah by the name of Zayd ibn Raqad, he hid behind a palm tree. Ajarakumullah, he would strike the hand of Abbas. أين المنادي وعباسا. Abbas would say, Wallahi in qata'tum yamini, inni uhami abadan an dini, wa an imamin sadiq al-yaqini. نجل النبي الطاهر اليميني. By Allah, if you cut off my right hand, I will continue protecting my religion and protect an Imam truthful in his certainty, grandson of the purified and trustworthy Prophet. He continued towards the tents. Then another enemy by the name of Hakim ibn Tufayl hid behind another palm tree. Ajarakum Allah, he would strike Abbas on his left hand. أين المنادي وسيدا يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار وأبشري برحمة الجبار مع النبي المصطفى المختار قد قطعوا ببغيهم يساري فأصلهم يا رب حر النار. O self, do not fear the infidels and receive glad tidings of the mercy of Allah. With the Prophet, the Master, the Chosen One, Ya Allah, they have cut with their hate my left hand, so punish them with the hellfire. Abbas would hug the flag, he would hug the water pouch, he would try to hurry towards the tents. The only thing on his mind were the children. The enemies would surround him. They would shoot him with arrows. An arrow would hit his chest, another would hit his forehead, and another would hit his eye. Abbas would not stop. He had a promise to fulfill. Ya mu'mineen, until the arrow would hit the water pouch. The water would start to leak. At that moment, Abbas would stop his struggle. When he realizes there is no water to deliver, one of the enemies of Allah, he would hit Abbas with a pole on his head. This brave warrior would fall from the horse with no hands to support his fall. He would fall face first onto the ground. أين المنادي وعباسا. At that moment, he would say, peace be upon you, O Aba Abdullah, Brother Hussein, come to my aid. This was the first time that Abbas would ever call Imam brother. Hussein would rush from the tents, following the voice of his brother, following the voice of his backbone. Imagine the state of Abbas, no hands, his body filled with arrows, blood is flowing from his head. He has no eyes to see with. One of them has an arrow inside it. The other is covered by blood from his head and forehead. Some narrations would mention when Hussein reached Abbas, he would feel somebody by him. He would say, whoever you are, please do not kill me until I see my brother Hussein. Hussein would embrace him. Then Abbas would notice the Imam moving. He would say, Master, what is it that you are doing? Imam would reply, I want to carry you to the tents. Abbas with a broken voice would say, oh my brother Hussein, leave me where I am. Why Abbas, why would I leave you? He would say, I promised Sukaina with water, and now I have nothing. I have no hands, I have no water. يا خويا حسين خليني بمكاني يقل ليش يا زهرة زماني يقل وعدت سكنة تراني بالماي واستحي منها وما اقدر. Aba Abdullah would stay with his brother He would put his brother's head on his lap. Abbas would move it back to the ground. He would try a second and third time. Hussein would say, brother, why do you bring your head back to the floor every time I put it on my lap? He would say, Hussein, now I have your lap to put my head on. But in an hour's time, when Shimr would be sitting on your chest, whose lap would you have to put your head on, O Hussein? Imam would stay with his brother until his soul would depart this world and return to his Lord as a martyr. أين المنادي وعباسا. Imam al-Hussein would stand up and say, now my back is broken and my enemy feels victorious over me. Then in anger and sadness, he would draw his sword, he would go towards the enemy, they would start running away from him. He would say, where are you running? You have just killed my brother. Where are you going? While you have just killed the son of my father. Then Hussein would return to the tents, filled with sadness. His back is arched. Zainab would see him. She would say, where is Abbas? Some narrations say that he began to cry and he would go to the tent. He would move the pole from the tent. The tent would collapse on the ground. Zainab knew that that meant Abbas was martyred. She began to cry. Sukaina would go to her father. She would slap her face. She would cry loudly. Then Imam would wipe his tears. He would look around the camp. هل من ناصر ينصرنا? Is there no support to support us? Is there no one to save us? Is there no one searching for truth to heed us? Is there no one fearful of the hellfire to aid us? Is there no monotheist who is fearful of Allah? Is there no one to come and support us? At that moment, Imam al-Sajjad would hear his father. He would try to lean on a stick. He would try to walk to his father while pulling the sword across the ground. He has no strength to carry it. Hussein would say to Zainab, help him back to the tents so that the earth does not become free from the progeny of Muhammad. Then he tells his family to remain calm. And then he bids them farewell. He would take the sword of his grandfather Rasulullah. He would ask for an old garment. He would rip it into pieces so that the enemies will not benefit from it. And he would wear it under his armor and clothing, because he knew that when he would be killed, they would loot his armor and clothing. Then Imam al-Hussein asked to bid farewell to his baby. Zainab would bring the infant to his father. She would say, Brother Hussein, he has had no water for 3 days. His mother's milk has dried up. Imam al-Hussein embraces his 6-month-old son. He kisses him on the forehead. He mounts his horse. He approaches the army of Yazid. He loved this infant so much. He would care for the infant so much. He would place his garment over the infant so that the heat of the sun would not hurt him. He would hold the child. He would say, "Give the child some water. If you are scared that I would drink from it, then take him and give him water and bring him back to me." The army begins to argue. Some would say, "Give the child water. He is innocent and has nothing to do with this." While another would shout, "Kill him and do not leave anyone from this household." They begin to argue. Umar ibn Sa'ad would turn to Harmala. He would say, "Cut and end their argument." Harmala begins to narrate. He says, "I prepared my three-headed arrow. I looked at the infant to find my target. A wind would come and move the clothing and the covering that was covering his neck. It looked like a shiny pearl. I made that my target. And I slaughtered him from the neck inside the lap of his father." Imam al-Hussein would put his hand under the neck of his infant until it was covered with blood. Imam al-Baqir narrates, he says that he threw the blood to the heavens and not a single drop would go back to the ground. Imam al-Hussein would then return to the tent while saying, "O Allah, if you do not make us victorious today, then make it be to what is better than victory." He would dismount his horse. He would enter the tent. He would accept the decree of Allah. Sukaina comes to her father. She no longer hears the cries of her brother. She says, "Did you give him water? And have you brought back water for me, my father?" Imam al-Hussein would take out the child from under the garment. When the family see his slaughtered neck, the women and children begin to wail and cry. Some narrations mention that Imam al-Hussein went outside the tent. He would use his sword to dig a grave and bury his infant. Then the Imam would draw his sword. He would go out onto the battlefield, killing every man that approached him. Then he went to fight the flank of the army, the right flank of the army. He would chant, "Al-Mawtu awla min rukub al-'ari, wal-'aru awla min dukhul al-nari." Death is better than humiliation, and humiliation is better than entering hellfire. Then he would fight the left flank of the army, and he would say, "I am Hussein, son of Ali. I am firm and I will never retreat. I protect the family of my father. I follow the religion of the Prophet." This was the bravery of Hussein. He would attack the army from all directions. He would attack the right, then he would attack the left, then he would attack them from the center. Abdullah ibn Ammar, he said, "I have never seen a person outnumbered whose children were martyred, his companions were killed, braver and more courageous than Hussein. Every time he attacks a group of men, he would defeat them, and not a single one would be able to fight him." Then Umar ibn Sa'ad would shout out, "This is the son of Ali, well known for his bravery. Attack him from all sides." Ajarakumullah, they would shoot him with 4,000 arrows all at once. They would surround the Imam. Some would go from behind, trying to cut his path to the tents. So Imam Hussein would shout, "O followers of the family of Abu Sufyan, if you have no religion and are not fearful for the hereafter, then be free of this world." Shimr would reply, "What are you saying, O son of Fatima?" He says, "I am the one that is fighting you. The women have not committed any crime. So do not allow your soldiers to go near my women as long as I am alive. Come and fight me and leave my women. My time has arrived and the signs of death are clear." They would accept this request. Imam would attack them again. The Imam is now thirsty, attacking a group of 4,000, blocking his path to the Euphrates, led by Amr ibn al-Hajjaj. When he would dismount his sword with his horse, the horse would put the head down to drink. Imam says, "You are thirsty and I am thirsty. I will not drink until you have drunk." The horse would raise its head as if to say, "Aba Abdullah, I will not drink until the Imam of my time does." Then he would place his hands onto the river. He would bring the water to his lips, but before that would hear a man shouting, "Will you enjoy this water while your women have been attacked?" Aba Abdullah throws the water. He goes towards the family, but he finds them to be unharmed. He would then bid his farewell to his family. For the final time, he would ask them to gather around him. He says to them, "Make sure to remain patient, prepare for tribulations, and know that Allah is the ultimate protector. And He will save you from the enemies, and you will receive goodness while your enemies will try to punish you, but they will be punished with all types of punishments, and you will be compensated for your tribulations with different types of blessings. So be strong, do not complain, and do not utter anything that will lower from your status." He would then look at his daughter Sukaina. As she was not with the rest of the women, he would go and find her sitting in her tent, crying with her head between her knees. He would approach her and sit by her and start to comfort her. She would turn around to him and say, "My beloved father, tell me, is this the last time I will see you? Father, if you are not coming back, take me with you, please." He would comfort his daughter. He would pray for her. He would ask her to remain patient. Then Umar ibn Sa'ad would shout out, "Woe upon you, attack him now. He is busy with his family. By Allah, if he prepares himself to fight, he will annihilate you." So they begin to shoot the arrows at the camp of Hussein. The arrows would hit the outskirts of the tents. Some of the arrows would hit the clothing of the women. They start to scream out of fear and enter the tent. Aba Abdullah furiously would ride his horse and attack the enemy. He would kill anyone with a single hit until they would retreat. Then he would return to the tent to bid his final farewell, he would stand and say, "Who will bring me my horse? I am the son of the Messenger of Allah. Who will bring me my horse? I am the son of the Commander of the Faithful. Who will bring me my horse? I am the son of Fatima al-Zahra." Lady Zainab would bring the horse of Hussein. She would say to him, "My brother, have you ever heard of a sister who brings the horse of death to her brother?" He would kiss her on her forehead, bidding her farewell, mounting his horse and riding towards the battlefield. But before he goes, she begins to call out, "Oh brother Hussein, return, return, return." He would go back to see Lady Zainab. She would say, "Brother, dismount your horse." He would go down. She would kiss him on his chest. She would smell his neck. She then turns to Medina. She says, "Oh my mother Fatima, this was your will. I have now fulfilled it." He says, "Zainab, what is this will?" She says, "When your mother approached death, she said to me, Zainab, when you see your brother Hussein all alone, a stranger, Ghareeb, Waheed, kiss him on his chest. This is the chest that will be trampled by the horses. Smell his neck. This is the neck that will be severed. Oh Mother Fatima, I have fulfilled my promise." Imam al-Hussein would place his hand on the heart of Zainab. He would make dua, and then he would enter the battlefield for the final time. Not a single soldier was able to stand in front of him. Anyone that approached him, he would kill with a single strike. He would remind them the bravery of his grandfather. He would remind them the bravery of his father. Knowing that they could not come close to such warriors, they begin attacking him from far. They begin shooting him with arrows. The arrows would fill his body. Some of the arrows would hit his neck. He would begin to repeat, "La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah." There is no might or power except with Allah. He would then ask for some water. Shimr would say, "You will not taste water until you enter hellfire." Another would say, "Oh Hussein, you will not see the Euphrates. Even if you see the Euphrates, you will not drink from it until you die from thirst." Imam would say, "Oh Allah, make these people die from thirst." He would continue to fight. Then Abd al-Hutuf al-Ju'fi would shoot an arrow onto the forehead of Hussein. The Imam would remove the arrow. The blood would cover his face. He says, "Oh Allah, you have seen the state those sinners have put me in. Do not allow a single one of them to have an offspring on this earth. Never forgive the enemies of Allah. O nation of evil, how is it that you treat the progeny of Muhammad like this? After you have killed me, you will never be afraid of killing another man. I pray that Allah grants me martyrdom and that He will avenge my blood and you will not see it coming." When the Imam becomes tired from fighting, he would stop and rest. The enemy would come forward. They would throw rocks at the Imam. One of the rocks would hit him on his forehead. He would pick up his shirt to wipe his forehead. Another enemy would hit him with a three-headed arrow. The arrow would pierce the heart of Hussein. He begins to say, Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. In the name of Allah and the religion of the Messenger of Allah. Then he would remove the arrow. Some narrations would mention that pieces of his heart would come out. His heart begins to pour blood. He places his hand on the wound. He throws the blood onto the sky, knowing that Allah is watching, is easing my tribulation. Not a single drop would come. Then he places his hand under the wound a second time. He drenches his head and beard with his blood. He says, this is how I will meet Allah. This is how I will meet Rasulullah while I am drenched in my own blood. He says, oh grandfather, this person and this person has killed me. The amount of blood he lost made him weak. He would sit on the ground to rest. His head would be facing the ground. Then an enemy of Allah by the name of Malik ibn Nis, he would approach the Imam. He would swear at the Imam. He would strike him with a sword on his head. More blood would start to pour from the Imam. He would say, may you never eat and drink with your right hand. May you be placed with the tyrants on the day of judgment. O Mu'mineen, the women and children who are watching from the tents, the children could not bear to see Hussein. They wanted to defend their uncle. They wanted to defend the one who cared for them. They wanted to defend the one who showed them love. Some of them would feel paralyzed. The others would sit and weep and cry. Two of the children, however, they wanted to save their Imam. The first was Muhammad ibn Abi Sa'id, the grandson of Aqil. He would approach the enemies while holding a pole in his hand. He would look left and right. He was a young boy, confused, not knowing how to deal with the situation. Ajarakumullah. An enemy of Allah would ride towards him. He would strike him with his sword. The young boy would drop to the ground, returning to his Lord as a martyr. The enemies had a break for a short while. Then they would come back and see Hussein lying on the ground, unable to stand up. They would surround him from all sides. Abdullah, son of Hassan, an 11-year-old child, was not able to see his uncle in this state. Zainab tries to hold him, but he would escape and run to his uncle. Then Bahr ibn Ka'ab, when he tried to hit Imam al-Hussein, the young boy would shout, "Oh evil man, will you really hit my uncle?" The man would try to strike the Imam. Abdullah would put his hands up trying to defend the Imam. The sword would cut the hands of this young child. He would cry and scream, "Uncle Hussein, look at my hand!" Imam al-Hussein would hug the child to his chest, asking him to remain patient. When the Imam would raise his hands, he would say, "Oh Allah, if you allowed them to be joyous up until this moment, then separate them one from another, and do not allow their leaders to be pleased with them. They called us to support us, but now they are fighting and killing us. Then Harmala would shoot an arrow at the young boy's back. He would slaughter him from the neck. He would be slaughtered on the body of his uncle. At this point, Imam al-Hussein is lying on the plains of Karbala, all alone with the enemy surrounding him, while being heavily wounded and unable to move. They wanted to kill him, but they were too afraid. 10 men would surround his body. They would look at one another. They would try to push each other to kill the holy Imam. They kept looking at one another. No tribe wanted to carry the shame of killing Imam al-Hussein. Shumr would shout, "Why are you standing? What are you waiting for? Do you not see he is heavily wounded? Attack him and finish him now." Oh believers, one of them would hit Imam on his shoulder. Another would shoot an arrow on his mouth. Another would hit him on his right shoulder. Then Sinan ibn Anas would stab him with a spear on his collarbone. He would stab him on his chest. They would shoot an arrow directly towards his neck. Then another enemy would stab him on his side. Imam al-Baqir says that Imam al-Hussein had 320 wounds on his body, one stab on top of another, a hit on top of another. The arrows had filled his body. All of the wounds were on the front of his body, as he would never turn away from the battle. Imam would ask for some water. They would say, "You will not drink water until you enter hellfire." Hussein says, "I will not enter hellfire. I will enter heaven with my grandfather Rasulullah. And I will tell him what you did to me." Then the horse would approach Abu Abdullah. He would drench his head in the blood of Hussein. Umar ibn Sa'ad shouted, "This is a trained horse, one of the horses of Rasulullah. Surround this horse." So the horsemen would surround the horse. It would start kicking them with its hooves until it would kill 40 men and 10 of the horsemen. Then Umar ibn Sa'ad, he would say, "Leave the horse, let us see what it will do." When the horse began to feel safe, it would drench the top of its head with the blood of Hussein. Then it would neigh loudly. Then Imam al-Baqir would say, "The horse was saying retribution against the nation that killed the son of the daughter of its prophet." Then the horse would rush towards the tents while neighing in that manner. Sahib al-Zaman, he describes the scene in Ziyarat al-Nahiyah. He says, when the women saw your horse distraught and saw your saddle contorted, they came out of their tents, slapping their faces, wailing and calling you, humiliated after being honored, hastening to where Hussein lay wounded. Lady Zainab would walk towards the body of Hussein. Umar ibn Sa'ad would see a woman covered in full hijab, strong in character, walking towards the body. When he recognized it was Zainab, he ordered the army to make way for her. This is the daughter of Fatima. This is the daughter of Ali. This is the granddaughter of Muhammad. She would sit by the body of Hussein. She would say, "Oh Muhammad, oh my grandfather, oh Father Ali, oh Ja'far, oh Hamza. This is Hussein on the plains of Karbala, cut into pieces." And she would say, "I wish the skies would collapse on the earth, O Mu'mineen." She would sit by the holy body, a body covered in wounds, a caring sister like her. The first thing she would think of is to heal and treat the wounds. But I ask you, O believers, hundreds of wounds, which wound would she treat? Which wound could she heal? She would turn to her brother and say, "My beloved Hussein, speak to me. For the sake of our grandfather Muhammad, speak to me. For the sake of our father Ali, speak to me. For the sake of our mother." He would say to her, "By Allah, Zainab, you have broken my heart. Return to the tents and take care of the family." Ajarakumullah. Then Umar ibn Sa'ad moved closer to the body of Imam al-Hussein. Lady Zainab turned around. She said, "Oh Umar, does my brother Hussein get killed while you look at him?" He would turn his face away from her while his tears are drenched in blood. She would say, "Woe upon you! Is there no Muslim amongst you?" But no one would answer her. Umar ibn Sa'ad would then shout, "Go and end him!" Shimr would approach him. He said he was wearing iron slippers. He would kick the holy Imam. He would sit on the chest of the Imam. He would grab the beard of the Imam. He would draw his sword. He would hit the Imam 12 times. And then he cut his holy head. Wow, Zainab! حسينا أيوة حسينا وحسينا وحسينا أيوة حسينا. Lament for your Master Hussein. كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى كما على تربك لما أرضعوا كما على تربك لما صرعوا من دم سال ومن دم جرى كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى يا رسول الله لو عاينتهم يا رسول الله لو عاينتهم وهم ما بين قتال وسبا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا كربلاء لا زلت كرب وبلا ما لقي عندك آل المصطفى. Oh Allah, accept from us this small amal on this holy day. Oh Hussein. Pray for your families and all the mu'mineen and pray to gain closeness to Allah through Imam al-Hussein. And for the dearly departed of this community, we read Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل